Your eyes should get used to it. Now I will show how the roof opens. Svetlana Moshkina almost daily conducts tours at the Kamenskoye Plateau Almaty Observatory. The first component of success is a clear sky, so visitors can see the maximum number of objects in our galaxy. Special excitement is around rare exhibits. These telescopes are 70 or even 120 years old. It was established in 1949, and since January 1st, 1950, it was used for full-fledged observations. The Kamenskoye Plateau Observatory is one of the 3 observatories in Almaty. In addition, it is the oldest one. The decision on its construction was made in 1941. This happened in anticipation of a total solar eclipse. According to experts, the most convenient place for its observation was the territory of Almaty. It was planned to send 28 scientific groups from all over the Soviet Union to observe this rare natural phenomenon, which lasts just over 2 minutes. But unfortunately, World War II intervened in the noble plans for comprehending the laws of the universe. Out of 28 expeditions, only 7 were able to come here. Most of them settled in the upper part of the city. And you know that in 1941, the city was quite small and compact. And here, in one of the wastelands, astronomers stood with their telescopes and observed this rare natural phenomena, a total solar eclipse. The astronomers involved in the observation of the eclipse could not return to their institutions. Some of them were cut off by the front line, like the Pulkovo Observatory. Others were evacuated into the interior of the country. In addition, the materials received in Almaty required a long and comprehensive analysis. Just a few days later, it was decided to leave scientists in Almaty and create the Institute of Astronomy and Physics on the basis of the existing telescopes. This picture shows how the mountains were equipped. There was still no urban lighting. In 1945, the observatory building project was prepared, and after 4 years, the construction was completed. As planned, the object became an exact copy of the Pulkovo Observatory in Moscow, only slightly more modest in size. Architecture of this building has not changed. It has the same columns and semi-arched windows. Stylistically, such an architecture is referred to as the Stalin Empire, or Stallions. This is one of the dominant trends in Soviet architecture from the mid-1940s to the mid-1950s. The style is characterized by massive wooden furniture, stucco molding under high ceilings, carved cabinets, bronze lamps, and figurines. When the guests of the observatory come here, they not only learn about science, but also immerse in a long-forgotten atmosphere.
В институте для образовательных целей не только для школьников, но и студентов, и для всех интересующихся.
At the Institute for Educational Purposes, not only for school children and students, but also for all those interested in astronomy, we organize excursions almost daily in cooperation with travel agencies. From our part, we conduct educational lectures for them, such as preschool level, school level, and student level lectures. It is on the Kamenskoye Plateau that we have telescopes suitable for this purpose.
На обсерватории Каменском плато у нас находятся экскурсионные телескопы, которые пригодны для этих целей.
On the territory of the Astrophysical Institute on Kamenskoye Plateau, there are 5 telescopes. Although they are no longer used for fundamental research, the flare of the city, the lights of the big city, interferes. Now the observatory serves scientists as a temple of science, and for visitors it is a very exotic museum in honor of the immense sky full of stars. This year, the telescope turns 120 years old. It is the oldest in Kazakhstan and one of the oldest in the former Soviet Union. Made in Germany at the end of the 19th century. That is, it has already witnessed 3 centuries. Today, future astrophysics are participating in tour. Most of the students see these old mechanisms in their work for the first time and cannot hide their admiration. I understand that they are all old. We were shown a telescope from the end of the 19th century. We can already say that people back then could watch the stars, could look deep. They had a wide perception, broadening their horizons. This is really cool. That's why people want to dedicate their life to astronomy, just like I do. Boys can try to lift it up, but I won't let girls to lift it up. It is 17 kilograms of iron. Please, you are allowed to touch it, take pictures and make a wish. This is a real artifact, Sihote alien meteorite. It is practically the same age as the building. It struck the atmosphere of the planet in 1947. Its remains were brought here to replenish the local collection. It fell in the mountains, did nothing bad to anyone, and fell apart into 100,000 fragments. And originally it was of the size of a telescope. In parallel with the excursions, systematic scientific work continues. For example, the position of the geostationary Kazakh satellites of the KazSat system is closely monitored. Scientists calculate the trajectories of the motion of other satellites, preventing potential collisions in space. Such accidents pose a threat and can cause serious violations of communications in many areas of life on Earth. If there are any possible collisions, experts will report this to the Republican Center for Space Communications. As an example, I can show directly the events of a close approach of the geostationary zone apparatus with communication satellites. If anyone can get to the observatory on Kamenskoye Plateau just by registering for a tour, the Tanshan Observatory, located in a picturesque place near the big Almaty lake, at an altitude of 2,750 meters above sea level, is closed to outsiders. Tourists who are attracted by the natural beauty of this place are not even aware of the existence of this object, although it is located just a few kilometers from the lake. However, foreigners are eager to share the impressions about Kazakhstan.
Uzbekistan, they had a lot of lovely wildlife, they had a lot of lovely scenery, but I don't know if the people are as nice as they are here. There's a lot of regulations. You get hassled at the airport with visas, you get hassled with stuff like that. Here, Kazakhstan, you just get off the plane and go birding. You don't have to do anything. Everything's been very nice. And the people are friendly and lovely. The Kazakhstan is so beautiful here. It reminds me of our American Midwest with the mountains and the plains and the deserts.
The observatory has two automated 1-meter telescopes fitted with German optics of legendary precision, Carl Zeiss, east and west. The difference of the Western one is that it has a spectrograph, which allows decomposing the radiation of stars along the spectrum. Also, it helps to understand their internal nature and chemical composition. For the whole of Kazakhstan, there are only 3 telescopes with a 1-meter diameter. The third is located at the Asi-Turgen Observatory. I ended up here in 1981. I have been working here for 40 years. Anatoly Kusakin is one of the honorary employees of the observatory. He was working when the construction of buildings and outbuildings were carried out. The scientific site itself appeared here in 1957, and at first, scientists lived in yurts and tents. It is obvious that the striking difference in the aesthetics of this observatory was influenced by the decree on the elimination of excesses in design and construction issued in 1955 and marked the end of the Stalin Empire style. No more columns, moldings, and other monumental pathos, strictly practical and ergonomically verified solutions. So the priority of 1960s was extremely constructive, industrial style. It was able to emphasize the benefits of modern technology at that time. It can be considered as the time of the first mass fashion for minimalism.
Поставили здесь солнечные телескопы и потом поставили звездные
Solar
телескопы.
telescopes as well as the stellar telescopes were installed. That's how the observation of the sun and the stars began.
Вот с них начали вестись на наблюдение за Солнцем и за звездами.
Here we have only the most necessary things for work. The observatory buildings serve primarily their main purpose, to provide functional jobs for the station staff. The whole complex of the observatory is placed on a rather compact platform. It has 2 hangars for 1-meter telescopes, a small pavilion for a smaller telescope, 800 millimeters, and the radio polygon orbit. Despite the seemingly modest opportunities, Kazakhstan scientists have a high degree of citation in the leading popular scientific magazines of the world. The observatory in Almaty, Kazakhstan closes the geographical gap among other observatories in the world. We have a unique position because, as you well know yourself, the best observatories of the world are located in Chile, South Africa, Hawaii. And this unique place allows us to occupy a worthy place in world science. People unfamiliar with modern astronomy are still confident that scientists spend all their time behind the telescope. In fact, this is certainly not the case. It's most comfortable to track all the data necessary for work on computer monitors, which does not require physical presence in the observatory. The main thing now is uninterrupted access to the internet. I turn on the telescope.
Это восточный телескоп.
And turn on the dome rotator.
Это вращение купола. Так. Вот там это.
This is the rotation of the dome.
Перемещается.
This is where this item moves, and this way it opens. It is noteworthy that it was in this observatory in 1968 the comet Churyumov-Gerasimenko was discovered. The comet bears the name of its discoverers, graduate student Gerasimenko and its head instructor Churyumov. It was on this comet in 2014 that scientists were able to dock the spacecraft for the first time in the history of space exploration. The interplanetary station Rosetta flew to the comet for a long 10 years, and the entire enlightened world watched the final stage of this epic operation with interest and hope. The history of the discovery of comet Churyumov-Gerasimenko is very important for science. Scientists from Tajikistan and Ukraine discovered a comet in Kazakhstan, and already by joint efforts of the European Space Agency and NASA, the docking of the spacecraft in the comet was carried out. Kazakhstan experts emphasize that when it comes to serious science, especially of such a universal scale, collaboration is the only possible way for breakthrough projects. Without international collaboration, it's impossible to conduct any serious research. Even those publications that are made in the leading scientific magazines of the world, such as Nature, Astrophysics Journal, they are made thanks to international cooperation between the world's leading scientists and observatories. The observatory in Kazakhstan, due to its location, closes the geographical gap among other similar institutions in Chile, South Africa, and the Canaries. With the efforts of one country, it's impossible to carry out actual research in astronomy, since many observations require fixation of 24 hours a day. That's why the leading observatories of the world are united into a global network. Its integral part is the Fesenkov Astrophysical Institute. Given that Kazakhstan has its own satellites, our goal is to avoid collisions with space debris with other objects. That's why we exchange data with other observatories of the world. We receive information from the other side of the Earth when it is daytime here.
Обмен данными с другими обсерваториями, когда у нас день, получать информацию, что происходит на другой стороне, да, Земли.
Наблюдаем за Солнцем.
We are watching the sun. We measure the solar radiation flux.
Солнце.
On the territory of the Tanshan Observatory, the Institute of the Ionosphere also hosts this 12-meter parabolic antenna. Its main task is to record the density of the solar radio flux. Engineer Yelena Pankratova has been working at the station since 2011. According to the specialist, in the 1980s, about 30 specialists were required to serve one such antenna. With the automation and digitalization of processes that took place here 5 years ago, the number of personnel has decreased tenfold.
Раньше, я говорю, начиная с 80-х годов, здесь порядка от 25 до 50 сотрудников находились.
Before, in the 1980s, there were from 25 to 50 employees here.
Различные наблюдения.
Now, in principle, 1 or 2 persons is enough.
Достаточно.
Here we have all existing programs. There is the launch of the power unit and the program I downloaded. The antenna goes right on this data and conducts measures every 5 seconds.
Которую я на сегодняшний день загрузила, антенна идет прямо по этим данным и производит измерения каждые 5 секунд.
In general, the Institute of the Ionosphere studies cosmic weather and its influence on a human. This is especially relevant to meteor-dependent people. For example, on the website of the Institute, everyone can find out about the impending magnetic storms or flares in the sun and adjust their lifestyle based on these forecasts. A tour of the station ends in the most sacred place for observers, astronomers, in the dome of the telescope. As a rule, even the scientists themselves try not to come here often. Optics should not be exposed to dust and sunlight. Therefore, if there are people here, usually it's only engineers serving this equipment.
A telescope is a photographic lens and mirrors. It is the same system. And this is a digital matrix, like in our modern cameras. The light from the stars shines here, and that's how we get the image. Today, the work of the observatory covers a wide range of tasks. One of them is the search for exoplanets, planets outside the solar system, suitable for human life. Another direction is the study of asteroids. Even children are aware of what happened to dinosaurs after the asteroid fell on Earth 150 million years ago. It is impossible to exclude the likelihood of a repetition of this catastrophe in our era, experts say. This is probably the highest altitude elevator, our workhorse, so to speak, so we climb on it. The country's highest altitude elevator carries a film crew to the largest Kazakhstan telescope, which is located 100 kilometers from Almaty. This is the Kamenskoye Plateau, at an altitude of 2,700 meters above the sea level. Since the sun hits the ground when it's closer to the ground, then the surface layer creates turbulence. The builders had to lift the telescope higher. Now the height of the aluminum dome above the ground level is comparable to the 11-story building. This telescope played in boxes from 1989. 3 years ago we launched it. Now it's working safely for science. But from time to time we're upgrading something because the tasks from our scientists are all different. At the time of construction, to control such a telescope, 2 additional floors packed with specialized electronic equipment were needed. Now everything fits into one small locker. It sounds unbelievable, but this one weighs 57 tons. And it is driven by a 3-centimeter motor. Not so long ago, the electronic control system, optics, and some magnetic devices were updated here. So the tool became fully consistent with telescopes that are involved in modern research projects.
The telescope is in a very good optical and mechanical condition. We completely modified the electronic control system. Instead of the floor on the ground level, which used to be like a 3-room apartment in terms of space, now the telescope is controlled from this small cabinet. Microprocessor devices are installed, the signals are fed to the executive engines. To maintain the telescope's working capacity together with the rotation of the dome, 6 kilowatts is enough. The dome, weighing 6 tons, rotates 360 degrees. It is necessary to observe the starry sky around the perimeter. Externally, the telescope dome resembles the symbol of the capital of Kazakhstan, Bayterek. Often employees call it Bayterek among themselves. However, given the functional specificity of this object and the modernism widespread in the architecture of the 1990s, it's not surprising that the building acquired such a futuristic form. The very same telescope can look into space at a distance of 13 billion light years. Turgen Observatory, in fact, is unique. It is a pearl. Why? Because it is alpine. It is located in the reservation area. There are no buildings nearby, there is no light pollution, and we can pull out weak objects of deep space. And we are now working to establish telescopes from Taiwan University, University of Santiago, France, because this is almost the only convenient place to observe the Northern Hemisphere. Now 4 telescopes are working at the Turgen Observatory. In addition to this 1.5-meter telescope intended for the spectroscopic analysis of planetary nebulae and the study of processes occurring inside stars, a 0.5-meter and meter telescope is also installed here, aimed at spectral observation of the stars. A novelty in the arsenal of scientists was the 700-millimeter telescope, which was installed here last fall. This is a joint project of Nazarbayev University and the University of California. To date, the device is undergoing automation system and remote control tests.
We started this project last year, and the main aim of this project is to investigate the secret of the universe called by gamma ray burst. Gamma ray burst event happens very rarely, and we want to catch it by 3 cameras at the same time. It will help us to understand the nature of the gamma ray burst, why it happens, and what question we could find by understanding the nature of the gamma ray burst. Because gamma ray burst happens rarely, we cannot be here all the time waiting for that. That's why it should be maximum automated to catch the nature by itself.
It is planned to receive the first data from this telescope in the fall. The peculiarity of this particular telescope is that it receives data within a few seconds. Such devices are called fast. The cost of the device, by market standards, is quite acceptable, $200,000. So far, this is the only first project on the site which the observatory has allocated for international cooperation. It is expected to install the Taiwan Robotic Telescope soon. Today, this observatory is one of the best in the world. Studies here are conducted at the world level. We can judge this from international publications in the best scientific magazines of the world. Of course, we are set for large-scale projects to build a more powerful telescope at this observatory, with a size of more than 3 to 5 meters, which would serve the next generations of Kazakhstan who will be engaged in astronomy. In order to create a comfortable environment for scientists to work remotely, engineers conduct broadband internet here. In the meantime, they are forced to use satellite, which does not have a high speed. Yesterday, we went to get permission to install a retranslator. It's 7 kilometers away from here. We'll receive a high-speed internet from the city, and we don't need to be tied to a slow satellite internet, which means that we can work with 3-4 telescopes from any point on the planet, as long as we have a good connection to the internet. Due to its good geographical location, astronomical climate, and the absence of light pollution, the Turgen Observatory is the most promising for the development of international partnerships. Scientists have grand ambitions and consistent plans for the implementation of new achievements in space exploration.